We've now reached the true story twist in the game, where you're about to walk in and see the person, the mysterious contact is about to be revealed to you. And there were quite a few challenges associated with this this mysterious contact and with this reveal. As you know, you're about to step forward and meet Quinn and discover that Quinn, our lovely little Irish helper, is actually Russian. And that led to a great casting challenge for us.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a challenge for the talented actor we used, Julian Casey. Great actor, and he's great at doing accents, especially the Irish accent, which I believe he's somewhat native.
He is Irish, yes.
But so when we pitched to him, how's your Russian accent, and he just kind of gave us a scared face. And he was having a hard time with it, and I think what may have helped is we told him, why don't you go study the film Eastern Promises, some great Russian acting accents and in there. And he actually did. I think he spent about 3 days just practicing dialogue over and over again. And when he came in, you know, we thought, yeah, okay, it's probably not the most authentic Russian, but for a guy who's jumping between Irish and Russian, it was pretty damn good, and we were happy with it.
Yeah, leave it to the writers to come up with such an interesting, challenging twist on that. The dialogue itself needed to wrap everything up, including reflecting on all of your choices that you made throughout the game, which was yet another one of the fun things that we like to do, trying to keep track of all that. And then the biggest challenge maybe as well was that we had to hide
Well,
Quinn.
we didn't want the player to shoot him from afar.
That would have been bad.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, pow!
So there's that door opening on the cargo boat, I think, and because it's closed when you get there, and when you open, the forced conversation happens, and you have the guy who was waiting for you inside the boat. That way you couldn't shoot him before. Yeah, we're fascists that way. We don't let you shoot people.
Until you can.
Since that time, we've been monitoring all incoming and outgoing communications, and the lockdown allowed me to discreetly install a tunneler, rerouting the base's network traffic. By the time Bell Tower realizes something is wrong, it will already be too late.
What about the rest of the base personnel?
Most of them think Burke is still in command. Technically, orders continue to be issued in his name, but I'm the one making the calls. I've also taken the liberty of cordoning off this sector of the base. For the moment, at least, we're safe.
All right. Where's Megan?
I don't know for certain, but what I do know is that earlier today, Burke issued orders to have a large group of detainees transferred off this base. Unfortunately, the cargo ship carrying the prisoners has already set sail, but I took the liberty to send out an urgent dispatch in Burke's name. I know...
So noticing the two guards that are just at the bottom of the ramp, one thing like we do very well in Deus Ex is the environment reacts to past actions. In this case, if you had created chaos on the boat, these guards would be alerted and already. Expecting somebody to come out of this this environment right now, and if you didn't, well, obviously they're just talking and they're just like going on their patrol and everything. And that was a good lead on to the player getting out of an environment into another one, which is beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, we had only 13 weeks to do the DLC, which means that we had plenty of cuts to do from environment. Environment-wise, at first we didn't want to do the exterior of the base that you're standing in right now, but basically the level artist just saw the mandate and just said, you know what, I can do this. And he basically added this upon himself to just do this exterior of the boat, exterior of the base, and that really creates quite a seamless switch from the boat to the base, which is much more interesting than what we had planned, which was crummy at best.
And it works really well too, because we also wanted to get that change of scale from inside the boat. You're inside those real tight corridors and locations, and then you get into this base and wow, suddenly it's big and open, and so the addition of that was a really nice plus for us.
And yet you sound disappointed. You think we should have handled this differently?
I think we had a valuable asset in our hands. We're letting him slip away. He could have been very useful in the coming storm.
That hand does not need to be clenched tightly to maintain its hold on something. Jensen carries too much baggage right now. His obsession with Reed only serves to distract him.
We could have told him.
He must discover it by himself. And when he does, if you have followed my instructions precisely, you will know how to find him.
Assuming he lives that long.
Pritchard, any chance you're still there?
Jensen, my God. You've been offline for days. Where the hell are you?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
I'm pinging you now. You're in Singapore. Something's wrong, Jensen. I pinged you, and a second later, I lost your GPL signal. It's like you disappeared into a black hole.
Gotta be a jammer.
Well, obviously. If you can find the transmitter and take it offline, I'll be able to track you. And keep you on a tighter leash.
I've got more important things to do than help you keep tabs on me. If Megan and her team are here, there's no time to waste.
So we're in the Omega Ranch now, and we are with the level designer who created this map, Louis-Etienne Rivet. And actually, right now we start in the hangar as a starting point, but it was not like that before. We were in the outskirts, right?
Yup, indeed, Jeff.
Access granted.
So we're in the Omega Ranch now, and we are with the level designer who created this map, Louis-Étienne Rivet. And actually, right now we start in the hangar as a starting point, but it was not like that before. We were in the outskirts, right?
Yup, indeed, Jeff. We started in the outskirts, outside the compound, and your first objective was actually to go disable the antenna. And from there, you will infiltrate the compound, and you would reach the exterior courtyard, which exists in Omega Ranch. Sadly, mostly because of a lack of time and also for streaming constraint, we had to cut some part of the maps, and that part was cut. So we decided to recycle the antenna idea and integrate it to the compound, where it became a secondary objective for the player to disable.
And if I remember well, when we were starting in the outskirts, and maybe you can confirm, John, but one of the motivation we had for it is that most of the game happens in cities and concrete and everything, and we wanted to kind of change the pace a little bit and have a little bit more of the
we're trying to break
nature.
that whole
Exactly.
because that Omega Ranch is supposed to be in a remote, almost kind of the countryside, and we wanted to make sure that we could show that, but didn't come through all that much.
So this is the antenna I was talking about a bit earlier. It is we had a lot of problem actually with the players actually understanding what the antenna was, because we talked about it in the first briefer, but people didn't necessarily make the connection with the visual. So we ended up adding another location where it can be disabled from, and it is from the barracks.
Yeah, because you can go and climb on the ladder itself, the antenna itself, disable it from here.
Yep.
Or go in the barracks, and there's another spot where we
Yes.
can disable it remotely.
And we also had to add a map of the compound inside the barracks, because we couldn't give a window on the antenna. It would allow you to see the antenna from the barracks, but again, for mostly streaming and memory constraint, we had to add an actual map of the compound.
So all that because of T-Bone, right?
Yup.
Nice. Nice.
Anyone is hiding here, you better come out.
So here we're in the barracks in Omega Ranch, and what we tried to do here was try to retrofit the spec ops into this map, because they were supposed to be in a secret area of Bell Tower in Hengsha that we cut. We talked about it before.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how we wanted to get Bell Tower, how we had the Bell Tower in Upper Hengsha, and we wanted to hide all this information about Namir and his team so you could find it there. And when that got cut, we couldn't do it, so we had to try and find a way to retrofit it. And so that's kind of what this barracks we put the barracks here at Omega Ranch, but then to hopefully get that information in.
We have a couple of texts, but
we have a couple emails around that refer to the Spec Ops and and even I think there's something that tells about them in some of the computers, but we basically were running out of time again, and we just kind of ended up not really getting a chance to get them in. Sadly.
However, we did get the sense and the feeling that there was pressure from the player. Like when you get in, you actually feel that these guys are there, and you don't really know why they're there yet. So that did work out in our favor.
Yeah, true.
A little bit.
Widespread defect, coming so soon after the recent riots, only raises more questions about the problem of human enhanced cancer. Is this the beginning of a complete technological breakdown, or
Access granted. Access granted. Access granted. Access granted.
You must have done something, Jensen. 4 of our GPL signals just popped up, including yours. Koss, Colvin, Faraday. I'm not picking up Dr. Reed.
Send me the coordinates you do have. And Pritchard, tell Sarif.
I can't. While you were incommunicado, Mr. Darrow invited him, Bill Taggart, and the UN delegates to Panchea. They're halfway to the Arctic by now.
Great.
Shit! What a mess. What happened here? Do not have confirmation yet.
So now we're in the microgen lab, and actually as we get there, there's something different in terms of challenge, because if you have noticed by playing the game until now, most of the challenges are happening on the horizontal plane. And our lead level designer, René Martin Posé, really wanted us to change the pace a bit and try to go for a little bit more of the vertical plane challenges and everything, and that with the art and the style of the slab, we could really take advantage of it and create one of the very few zones in the game that have some vertical gameplay.
Access granted.
So the interesting acting bit here is the voice actress who plays Nia Colvin is actually the same actress who plays Dr. Markovic in the game. She's Lenny Parker, a very flexible and versatile actress, and she's actually got a bit of a fan following on her own because she was a major character, I believe, in the show Earth Final Conflict, and she still gets a lot of fan mail related to that. So
is it normal that I don't know that show?
You're just not geek enough.
Okay.
Flexible actress.
Get the hell out. This lab is off limits to you people.
Nice to see you too, Dr. Goldman.
What? Wait a second. I know you. You were Seraph's security guy. Way to protect our asses.
Hey, check the attitude, Doc. I nearly died trying to save you.
Oh, and now you're here to take me back. Well, maybe I don't want to go. Maybe I've got more here than I ever had at Seraph.
Would Vasily Savchenko agree with that? They executed him and dumped his body in a ditch.
That's not true.
Believe it. Unless these murderers have you so brainwashed, you don't mind building their toys.
It wasn't a toy. It was a software upgrade that limits functionalities in a biochip. They told me it was for crowd control. Is Vasily really dead? You saw the body?
What was left of it?
Oh my god. I should have listened to him.
Dr. Colvin, I need to locate the rest of the team. But Dr. Reed's GPL isn't broadcasting.
She's in the secured zone. There are guards everywhere.
Then I need a way to get the guards out. A distraction. Maybe a lab accident. What do you...
So this doctor, this scientist at Seraph is, again, another good voice actor story because I'm not sure if you've recognized this voice yet, but this is Alex Ivanovich, who also plays Ari Van Bruggen in the game. And again, also, you'll hear him later as some of the crazies in the Omega Ranch.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite characters. I'm glad Mary mentioned earlier that his role as Van Bruggen, we had a hard time casting that because for me personally, I remember they wanted a Dutch accent, and I did a lot of research, and there wasn't, I don't want to offend any Dutch people, wasn't to say it wasn't interesting, but it wasn't, it didn't really allow us to have fun with the character and give him sort of like a bit of a quirky sort of side, and we liked that he was a hacker and everything, so we kind of said, okay, well, we can't really incorporate the Dutch accent in where it's working for us. So we gave him a bit of free reign, and we gave him, like Mary already mentioned, the Gary Oldman True Romance reference, and he came up with something that was totally original, and we really loved it. He did such an amazing job. My only disappointment is that we didn't have time on the character side to give him a unique character that suited the voice, and instead he ended up being kind of normal looking.
Yeah, and what I love in this is that this scientist is so meek and so you really feel like my heart goes out to this guy. He's so scared, and he did such a great job. It
shows the range that he has.
But if we come back to those scientists like that, what also for me, like for at least for once. I mean, you have Pritchard that helps Jensen throughout the game, but it's more kind of a psychological help. And now getting the feeling that those scientists are kind of
taking a part
of what you have to do to save Megan and save them.
They're being proactive on saving themselves as opposed to help me, Adam.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Access granted.
What do you want?
So now we're in the microgen lab, and actually as we get there, there's something different in terms of challenge, because if you have noticed by playing the game until now, most of the challenges are happening on the horizontal plane. And our lead level designer, René Martin Posé, really wanted us to change the pace a bit and try to go for a little bit more of the vertical plane challenges and everything. And that with the art and the style of the slab, we could really take advantage of it and create one of the very few zones in the game that have some vertical gameplay.
Access granted. Access granted.
So this part of Omega Ranch was supposed to be where we wanted to kind of show all the atrocities that, you know, the experiments that were done on humans, and in terms of, you know, the advancement of transhumanism and stuff like that, and biotech technologies. Sadly, though, it's not really present, like all the crazy ideas. We had some really horrific things that we wanted to show. Like we had rooms that we literally called the horror rooms. This was the map for that. It was our kind of Silent Hill map, if you want. But yeah, now there's the beds. There's people lying in beds and whatnot. But that's pretty much as far as we went for all that.
Yeah,
I mean, the map went through several revisions, like we were discussing with Louis Etienne, and by the time it was the time to put the love into it, it was kind of already too late.
Yeah.
So.
But the good news is that we learned from our mistakes, and when we faced the same challenge in The Missing Link, the DLC, we had learned, so we tried a lot harder to make
that happen.
Show there.
Yeah.
So there's good from learning.
I mean, you still feel it. You still know that this is what's going on, you know, but it's just not as strong as what we wanted.
Yeah.
Here's a room that I really like, tying in with the Cyber Renaissance idea and analogy in the game. So here's, you know, an operation room. How do you say that? An operating room?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, operating.
An OR.
An OR, yeah, exactly. Operating room would be like a direct translation of French, I guess. So, and the idea is that back in the Renaissance, when they started doing public dissections for other doctors, that's what would happen. They had like these amphitheaters with those kind of steps with all the stairs around them, because at the beginning only very specific doctors and scientists were allowed to do the dissections. They had you know, kind of permits and personal permissions from the kings, so they would go from city to city, and all the doctors would come around to see them do the dissections and just kind of like all be, you know, surrounding what's going on and learning from it. So that was the idea here, to kind of make a very modern and tech-looking room that still had a bit of that rustic, weird amphitheater thing around it.
And the fun little interesting fact for me in this area is that the voice actor who is acting for this this character, the scientist, is the same voice actor who plays Wayne Haas in the game, and yet many people probably don't pick up on that because he was very talented and very capable of changing his style up.
You mean he's not whining every character he does?
And the other point is that they're supposed to be working, so how come they're all standing still?
That's a good question.
Do we have an answer to that?
No.
Okay. Adam?
Access granted.
So at this point, we're about to create the distraction.
Infamous distraction.
Distraction to get access to the restricted area of Omega Ranch. And I remember that even though what we ended up in the game sounds very simple, it was...
Access grant.
So at this point, we're about to create the distraction.
Infamous distraction.
Distraction to get access to the restricted area of Omega Ranch. And I remember that even though what we ended up in the game sounds very simple, it was really, really hard to get there because getting the proper feedback to the player that the scientists were helping you into getting into the restricted zone.
Yeah, because we really wanted to bring that sense that Jensen was working as a team with people, but they were spread out all over the compound, and they were supposed to create things that are supposed to set off alarms, and without like some major explosion, it was really hard to kind of figure out how do we kind of coordinate all that.
And if I remember well, with Etienne, we were talking about an explosion with seeing a wall being destroyed or something
yes, Yes, but that was very complicated because all of the heart had to be redone for after the distraction.
Yeah, that's why we didn't do it, because we didn't have the time with the art, yes.
I remember that, yeah. It would have been like making two maps almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the end, like the result is not too bad, but it's slightly too subtle.
Yeah,
to,
one of the big challenge with the scene was actually that the distraction itself is made by the scientists, which are not located at the same place as the player. So for the player to understand something that is not happening in his field of view, that was really hard. So
yeah, but in the end, hopefully, the players got it.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Hopefully.
Pritchard, are you still tracking the scientists?
Of course.
See- Simulate feedback along that route. Make it strong enough to vibrate their implants. They have to feel it.
A signal, eh? Not bad, Jensen. I'm sending it now.
Here is the introduction to the Namir boss fight. Actually, we had to manage to get two versions working because depending in Hengsha 2, if you went for the chip recall or not, whether you lose your augmentations or you keep them for the battle. And actually, the idea of losing all our augmentations for that boss fight was quite debated in the team. Like, it was a bold move.
It was a very bold move to basically strip the player from at least half of his experience in the game and force him to use to be clever about the weapons and just run around as much as he could survive, whether to just use a cloak or any augmentations he's accumulated over the playthrough.
And also for you, as you were balancing the experience, the gameplay, it was tough because you had to make it like interesting if you have your augmentations, but if you don't have augmentations, it still need to be playable.
Yeah, well, it was always we knew the idea of the choice and consequence was always there, that if you don't have your augmentations, it was part of the player's choice. I mean, whether he knew it or not, it was still a discussion we had that if he had the augmentations, the combat would be much easier, and that's the point of augmentations. Whereas if you go with the non-augmentation, the challenge is there that you have to sort of survive as a bare human being. that's pretty much what happens depending on the choice you make.
Finish it. Not until you tell me where Megan is. You've lost her, Jensen. Men like us will never get back the things we love.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this amazing game that is Deus Ex Human Revolution.
If you're just joining us.
If you are just joining us, well, we want to say hi to each and every single one of you. If you've been here for about 40 hours, well, you know who we are. Okay, so this room is pretty interesting because the concept of this room with Namir being kind of like somebody who's got his skin ripped off and all the other statues and everything in it is one of the earliest ideas we've actually had in the project. It goes all the way back to like May or early June 2007. We had the exhibition here in Montreal from the human body thing.
Bodies.
What's the name of the artist we used to know back in the days? Anyway, I forgot about him, about his name, that is. But anyway, so we said, one of our concept artists, Thierry, Baron Thierry, designed this guy that was fully augmented, and the augmentations looked like they were muscles, And we said, hey, this is pretty damn cool, let's keep it. Let's design an enemy that's its entire body is like that. It's fully mechanical. Only his head remains a human head. And then because of the exhibition in Montreal, we said, hey, what about he's actually kind of camouflaging himself within an exhibition just like that, and let's play with this. And this is one of the ideas that stayed the entire course of the development until where we actually had to produce this. So that's pretty cool.
That was one of the main challenge we had too. Actually, the first question was how to replace the statue with Namir and to mimic the animations and stuff.
Yeah.
And then what would happen with the statue, and does it come back after? Are there holograms? All these crazy things. So that was a bit of a challenge in that aspect.
An interesting little bit of fact, the statues, not Namir, but the other statues, but Namir also, I'll get back to this. We had their penises modeled on them, right? Yeah. And we had to take them out. Yeah. Because obviously we're not mature enough, people who play games and whatnot. When we see penises, we oh my god, we might go on a killing spree.
If we offend someone,
we're really sorry. And what's cool about Namir is not that we took it out. It's purposely his penis is not there. He probably removes it before combat or something like that. Yeah.
Well, talking about removing things, Namir went through a lot of changes as well. We used to have him like jump on the, on the sides of the room. There are big pillars, and he was supposed to jump from one to the other with a sniper rifle and shoot the laser rifle, I think, and shoot you with it. I could never get it to work properly. It was very confusing, and the player could not actually understand what was going on. So we decided to actually have him run around faster, cloak, and jump over the railings. Well, it's not railings, but so that was very interesting as well.
Also, he had kind of a nano whip, like in Johnny Mnemonic, where you could grab Jensen and pull him back towards him. And with your gun, you had the gameplay to try to shoot at it so he could release you. And if not, he was doing a takedown on you.
It's exactly that. It was a bit of a punishment, but that was kind of cool. I think.
Access granted.
So yeah, here it's one of the two versions of the cutscene
The
where
meeting with Megan Reed.
we meet back with Megan Reed. It depends if you went for the chip recall or not, so it plays out a little bit differently. But that was a very, very difficult cutscene to make because it was at that point with all the twists or the intrigues of the game, of the story, were coming together, and now we were going into the final stage of closing the story. And
when you're dealing with the story, it's like everything is coming to a head, and there's a lot of information that is coming together at this point. And when we were first working out the story and working out the blueprint, I kept saying, guys, there's too much information, there's too many story beats that are being revealed in this scene. We're revealing the truth about Meg, and we're revealing the truth about Adam's DNA and how it's been used, and we're ultimately revealing who the true villain is in this piece. And it's an awful lot of to communicate, and I just felt like we need to separate it. We need to have gameplay that separates those points.
And I remember you were the one pushing for it quite a lot, and I still wanted you to pull this off because now we were to invent gameplay that didn't necessarily exist or we didn't plan for anything, and it would have forced us to do filler stuff just to pace the information a little bit more.
Yeah, so it was something, I mean, I have to admit, I was raising my objections from day one. I was raising it in story meetings, I was raising it in blueprint meetings, but ultimately what was coming down was, no, we have to get it all told in this because we can't stretch the maps, we can't stretch the gameplay.
So from a creative standpoint, you were totally right. That was the wrong approach. But as we had to cut mini maps and as we had to really close the deal with some of the game aspects and everything, it was the right call to make from a very, I would say, rational standpoint.
And actually it was good we did it that early because most likely would have had to cut all that gameplay that I thought was needed anyway, and then I would have had to rework the story, but at least this point I knew up front, we got to make the scene work. Somehow we have to make it work, and we did what we could.
Yeah.
You never said anything about this.
Going back to the scientists.
No, Adam. I know the complex better than you, all point. There's a hangar bay up there. Get to its control room and retract the roof. Clear a path for us.
So here we're in what we call the White Room. In the game, this was a pretty tricky room to nail down for different reasons, because this represents really well when you want to do something that people have a really hard time envisioning in their heads, where you're like, I want this room white. They're like, okay, you want the walls white? No, I want everything white, as if someone walked in with a paint gun and just like sprayed white over everything. And people just were really reluctant to do it, if you remember, Jeff.
Yeah,
and we were really pressing on, like, no.
Because people were saying that it wouldn't look good.
Yeah, a lot of people said it wouldn't look good, and we had to use a few little tricks, like tech tricks that we weren't using in the game at all. And basically, we were just like, we want it, just like figure a way to do it, and it ended up working out really, really well.
This room is gorgeous.
This room is gorgeous. It worked really well with marketing as well as a publicity for the game. And what's a little funny anecdote. One of the marketing artists, when he was like working, on classifying all the screenshots for marketing, he comes up to me and he shows me this room, that the screenshot of that room that I had taken, and he's like, "This room is obviously not finished. There's no textures. All I see is the normal maps." And I'm like, "No, this is it. It's textures." Like, no, I'm like, yeah. If you look at the leather, you can see there's leather texture. If you look everything, the tile look like ceramic, whatever. It's just that all is white. And he's like, okay, what, he's giving me this weird look, goes back to his desk, and I get this little messenger message, and he's like, but,
but seriously, you know, the textures are not there. Like, you thought I was joking, and I'm like, no, this is it.
This is the room.
So this is what the game is in a lot of ways, is just making these weird things that had never been done before.
And what is fun about this room actually really break the pace in the game, because as John covered it very often, we try to be as original as possible, but still we try to stay grounded in this kind of alternate reality. But with this room, we really went the extra mile to really break the expectations and bring it beyond what a player could expect. And definitely it's the kind of room that it will stick in your head for a long time.
Jensen, what the hell's going on out there? Broadcast frequencies are going haywire.
Malik, is that you? Where are you?
Coming into visual range of Singapore now. Been in the air since Pritchard first pinged you.
Good timing. I'm heading for a hangar bay to open the roof. We'll need an emergency extraction.
Roger that. I'm on my way.
So like I was saying before, I always felt there should be gameplay separating that cutscene beats.
Hey, Jensen! Looks like you could use some help! I see the scientist, Jensen. I'm landing nearby. And I think Dr. Reed wants to speak to you. Hang on.
Hello? Adam? We're all fine. You have to get to Panchaea and stop Hugh.
You and I aren't done with this, Megan.
I know how it looks, but you have to stop the broadcast. I think it's causing the new biochips to overstimulate the vagus nerve, creating terrifying hallucinations.
You mean it's driving augmented people insane?
Yes, and it's up to you to stop it. Use the Leo shuttle. It will take you to Panchaea. Good luck, Adam.
So like I was saying before, I always felt there should be gameplay separating that cutscene beats into certain things. And one of the things that I was kind of always thinking we would have here is an opportunity through once Darrow through the signal to actually have to struggle your way through Omega Ranch, through the crazy, so you get that experience of it. And it was kind of in my head how this was all going to play out.
But the
with the non-crazies.
Yeah. But the thing is that I wanted to save those fabulous crazies for the last map as much as possible. They have been hinted in the White Room when we were with Megan, and you see it on television. And we wanted to have a first glimpse in Omega Ranch before heading to Panchaea, just to have kind of a foreshadowing, like all the mess they could do. But I don't want it to overstate it. That's why we managed to keep it very, very low profile.
Yeah, and the other struggle that we were having here was how do we get Malik to come back if she's alive, because we really wanted a payoff for that. And it wasn't so much how do we get her to come back and save you, but if she's not alive, how do we get you out of here?
Exactly.
And we had a whole struggle to try and figure out, okay, if Malik is dead, then it's going to have to be Megan and the scientist who save you. And if she's alive, then it'll be her. And how do we play all of that into basically a funnel at the end of this map?
Access granted.
So one of the interesting points about the emails, yet again in this game, is that we really wanted to accomplish so much with it in Omega Ranch. We wanted to bring the Spec Ops in and reveal things, but by the time we got to it, we were so behind that we just kind of lost a lot of our intentions. But and we had to bring in some of the other level designers to help us with this. And I remember reading this one email from one of these level designers that made absolutely no sense to me, and I couldn't understand it. It was all about Hangar 18.
Yeah, actually it was that. Like, it was Bruce, one of our narrative designer on the team, that came to me one day, like, he said, we are in a hangar and stuff, and well, could I reference it to Hangar 18 from Megadeth? And I was like, well, why not, and everything. And he showed me what he had written, and it was subtle enough that you have to know Megadeth, but it was, and everything, but it was clear enough that it would make sense if you know the band.
How does it relate to Megadeth as opposed to relating to the real Hangar 18? What are the signs that you know it's Megadeth and it's not like the real?
It was like, I can't remember what the mail was referring to, but it
was Hangar 18.
It was, no, Hangar 18, but...
because Megadeth is referencing the real Hangar 18.
Yes, exactly.
So
but
you understand what I mean?
Yeah, but that was referencing to the song, and it was signed by Dave One.
Oh, there you go.
Like,
okay, Dave
exactly.
One would explain it.
Yeah, but Mary, she came to me and one day and this doesn't make sense at all and everything. And I said, yeah, you run that by me, you run that by me, and it totally makes sense. It's cool, you can go with it.
And I think Mary, a lot of the people on the team who like heavy metal understood that and got it.
Yeah.
So that was one of the joys of working in a very diverse team.
Yep.
Automated systems online. Darrow sequence 1, code 1, 1A, preset and ready to engage. Suborbital trajectory plotted. Destination, Panchaea. Begin countdown, Mr. Darrow.
Begin countdown.
Code 0, 0, 0. Confirm 0. Countdown.
So to continue on the comment of the yellow shuttle and going into space, what was really exciting for me is that I really wanted players to be able to see the Earth and everything. And actually, that sequence was supposed to be
slightly playable.
Slightly playable. You were supposed to be in first person in the cockpit and be able to look around through all the windows and see different sections of the Earth and everything. And as we produced a first version of it that was not playable, was just in cutscene, we didn't see the Earth really. And because we have constraint in time in producing it, and I was like, no, the whole point is to really have a glimpse of the Earth. We need to see it and everything.
I'm cutting you also to say that he's wearing a helmet in the trailer.
Yeah, and now he's reckless.
Yeah.
But and finally, like, we managed to show a bit more of the Earth. And now we were closing the deal on the Icarus myth. Like in the actual myth, Icarus falls into the sea, and this is what's happening.
That was the entire idea.
Yeah.
Jensen, can you read me?
Barely. I've reached Panchaea, Pritchard. Any word from Sarah for the UN delegates?
Nothing. The installation went into lockdown shortly after Darrow gave his speech. I can't tell if anyone's even alive. And the signal's still broadcasting.
Meaning no one's safe till I get in there and shut it down.
You'll have to disengage the lockdown first. Look for a master control panel at the top of the tower.
Access granted.
Pritchard, Panchea's broadcast center is at the base of the station near the bottom of the ocean. Is that right?
But the lockdown caused all the blast doors to seal. You won't be able to go down until you override the magnet.
From up in the tower. I got it.
Access granted.
Here, we're very close by the first crazy that you can encounter if
And
you really
if I could just say,
explore. Yes.
I've always hated the name Crazies.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be. We unfortunately made the mistake of calling them Crazies in the production because they weren't supposed to be zombies. They weren't supposed to be crazy.
No.
The storyline is that they were supposed to have been in a state of terror. They're suffering terrible, terrible hallucinations, and everybody is acting out of fear. And when your gut instinct kicks in, when you're that terrified, and many of them are, it's fight or flight, and many of the people are supposed to be these trained soldiers who are going to fight, and it's going to be very dangerous. But we made the mistake of calling them crazies. And when we called them crazies, everything just started going from there.
Yeah. So actually, and when we thought about them and everything because of the story, the AI that would be needed for them would be different than the rest of the game.
Definitely.
But since it was the only part of the game where you actually see them and a little bit in Omega Ranch, we couldn't put it as a priority. You have to have the AI for the rest of the game to be working super well before we get into this.
You need the AI that you're going to see 98% of the time good.
Exactly. So it was the last thing that we really focused on. And like Mary said, like just because we were calling them crazies, it put everybody in a state of mind that they are crazy.
That they're just insane.
Exactly. And it informed the animation and all to go in that direction. And the thing is that back in the day when we were thinking about them, we didn't really have good references to base them on. And as they were done and everything, I saw an episode of Fringe season 2 where I can't remember which episode it is, but you have these people who just go in hallucinating some stuff and it makes them kill people just because they're in this fight or flight kind of moment, etc. And I was like, gosh, if I've seen it or if it had existed when we were talking about them, the crazies the way they are, they wouldn't exist. So
They said there were no rats, but I knew there were. They're everywhere.
here we're very close by the first crazy that you can encounter if you really
if I could just say,
explore. Yes.
I've always hated the name Crazies.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be. We unfortunately made the mistake of calling them Crazies in the production because they weren't supposed to be zombies. They weren't supposed to be crazy. The storyline is that they were supposed to have been in a state of terror. They're suffering terrible, terrible hallucinations, and everybody is acting out of fear. And when your gut instinct kicks in, when you're that terrified, and many of them are, it's fight or flight, and many of the people are supposed to be these trained soldiers who are going to fight, and it's going to be very dangerous. But we made the mistake of calling them crazies. And when we called them crazies, everything just started going from there.
Yeah. So actually, and when we thought about them and everything because of the story, the AI that would be needed for them would be different than the rest of the game.
Definitely.
But since it was the only part of the game where you actually see them and a little bit in Omega Ranch, we couldn't put it as a priority. You have to have the AI for the rest of the game to be working super well before we get into this.
You need the AI that you're going to see 98% of the time good.
Exactly. So it was the last thing that we really focused on. And like Mary said, like just because we were calling them crazies, it put everybody in a state of mind that they are crazy.
That they're just insane.
Exactly. And it informed the animation and all to go in that direction. And the thing is that back in the day when we were thinking about them, we didn't really have good references to base them on. And as they were done and everything, I saw an episode of Fringe season 2 where I can't remember which episode it is, but you have these people who just go in hallucinating some stuff, and it makes them kill people just because they're in this fight or flight kind of moment, etc. And I was like, gosh, if I've seen it, or if it had existed when we were talking about them, the crazies, the way they are, they wouldn't exist. So.
Access granted. Access granted. Here, the last social boss fight, our last encounter with a madman. Actually, it's the one that we acknowledge ourselves to, like, it's the silliest one in the sense that the chip went off, people are dying all over the world, and you have Adam Jensen that goes into this lengthy conversation with this guy while people are
but at the same time they do this in movies and everything. You know, it's a bit it's a bit like before the big guy wants to kill the hero, like the mad guy wants to kill the hero, and it makes a lengthy
but at the same
fits
time,
into this whole thing.
So it was ridiculous, but at the same time it was needed to
I don't think you want to do that, Mr. Jensen. Disengage lockdown, and whatever demons this station contains are likely to come crashing out on us.
Afraid to die, Darrow? Or just unwilling to face what you've done?
Oh, I know what I've done, believe me. I take no pleasure in it.
And yet you still did it.
I did what had to be done. 20 years ago, I gave the world augmentation technology. I thought I was giving it a bright future, but instead I gave it the means to destroy itself. No law, no UN regulations are going to fix that.
People are dying out there. Hundreds of thousands of people driven to the brink of insanity because of you.
I had to convince the world. Before today, people believed we should steal fire from the gods and redesign human nature. Human nature is the only thing we have that gives us a moral compass and the social skills we need to live in peace. Destroy it, and you destroy our very species.
Paint yourself a savior, Harris. What you're doing is insane.
Is it? When this is done, the Illuminati won't be able to control men and women like you as they had planned, from the inside out. No one will be able to use the technology I invented to make others into beings they desire. Something we both know has happened already.
I think you're Frankenstein. Killing his own monster.
Actually, Mr. Jensen, I prefer to think of myself as Daedalus, watching helplessly as his child crashes into the sea.
Hammer philosophies once more.
What I'm saying is that we're not the
your
first ones to
final
use that
choice.
means.
No.
Exactly.
And actually, I think our original intentions with it were to kind of shake up and say, you know, why not have a boss fight where at the end of the game where it's a conversation and you have to try and convince this madman of the rationale behind it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the last one we wrote, but it was a switch of writers. Many of the boss fights were written by one writer on the project, Taras, who was fantastic, and then unfortunately he ended up leaving the project, and so we had to kind of train other writers on staff to do it. So it was a bit of and it's quite a difficult thing to write. So I think that kind of came into it. I think the fact that we had to get this actor to perform and gradually over the course of the conversation get angrier and angrier, and yet you can't really get too angry in these conversations because they all have to bleed back into all the multiple choices. So a lot of that led to, I think, a lot of issues on.
And even with the body acting, like at first he uses his cane and like he has a hard time moving around, and eventually gets passionate about what's talking about.
It's all
and
over the place.
He forgets that he has trouble with his
because
leg.
the adrenaline kicks in and he forgets about the pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we actually had two different mocap actors because I think we mocapped it once and we weren't happy and we had to redo it with someone else, so that might have also contributed to all that. So this one was not by any means my favorite.
But at least we had good visuals in the background, right?
Yeah, that's totally true. Thank you.
with our small birds that are
I saved the day. Is that what you're saying? No. But the room itself is, visually speaking, is definitely, again, I guess it goes with the whole Darrow thing that we've been talking about. The room itself is really not one of the best visuals of the game. But in the background, the matte painting that we have of Panchaea and that big gaping hole that goes into the ocean is quite impressive. Is I think pretty much movie quality. It's Jim Murray who did it, one of our concept artists, and turned out very well. So.
And I can't remember if in this shot we can see icebergs.
I hope not.
They'll be missing the point. It was my genius that created the technology. My vision that seduced Zarif and Zhao and all the others who now feed off of it. They seek to stand on the shoulders of my research without comprehending the danger that people like you pose to mankind. I am the only one with the perspective, the insight, to know what is needed.
I've always wondered about that leg brace of yours. Why the father of augmentation doesn't have the most basic of implants. Doesn't make much sense, really. Unless he's one of the few people genetically incompatible with this technology. Gotta love the irony in that. It's the kind of irony that can tear you up inside, bit by bit, every day, until you find yourself despising what you're not.
How dare you? You think I've done all this because a fluke of nature robbed me of my chance to become a part of it? I tried everything, damn you. Everything I could think of to change. None of it worked. None of it!
So you had to fix it, didn't you? Take back control, make it like it never was.
Yes! Yes, that's exactly what have I done?
Give me the codes, Darrow. Help me stop this.
You'll still be in danger. Panchaea's security system, much of it is self-determining and lethal. But if you succeed, if these codes help you turn off the system and reach the broadcast center, tell the world exactly why I did it. Explain to them about the Illuminati. Panchaea. Help them understand that the technology I created will not be a future any one of us desires. Put that away. Put that away. Put that away. The codes should help you shut down the Hyron project, Panchaea's security system.
Here.
Richard, the lockdown's disengaged. I'm heading back to the hangar to see if those blast doors are open. Have you been able to raise anyone?
I'm picking up several glimmers, but there's too much interference. I think you're on your own, Jensen.
Careful there, Francis. You almost sound like you regret that.
Here, the last social bus fight, our last encounter with a madman. Actually, it's the one that we acknowledge ourselves to, like, it's the silliest one in the sense that the chip went off, people are dying all over the world, and you have Adam Jensen that goes into this lengthy conversation with this guy while people are
but at the same time they do this in movies and everything. You know, it's a bit it's a bit like before the big guy wants to kill the hero, like the mad guy wants to kill the hero, and it makes a lengthy
but at the same
fits
time,
into this whole thing.
So it was ridiculous, but at the same time it was needed to hammer philosophies once more.
What I'm saying is that we're not the first ones to
choice.
use that means.
No.
Exactly.
And actually, I think our original intentions with it were to kind of shake up and say, you know, why not have a boss fight where at the end of the game where it's a conversation and you have to try and convince this madman of the rationale behind it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't the last one we wrote, but it was a switch of writers. Many of the boss fights were written by one writer on the project, Taras, who was fantastic, and then unfortunately he ended up leaving the project, and so we had to kind of train other writers on staff to do it. So it was a bit of and it's quite a difficult thing to write. So I think that kind of came into it. I think the fact that we had to get this actor to perform and gradually over the course of the conversation get angrier and angrier, and yet you can't really get too angry in these conversations because they all have to bleed back into all the multiple choices. So a lot of that led to, I think, a lot of issues on
and then even with the body acting, like at first he uses his cane and like he has a hard time moving around, and eventually gets passionate about what's talking about.
It's all over the place.
He forgets that he has trouble with his
because
leg.
the adrenaline kicks in and he forgets about the pain, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think we actually had two different mocap actors because I think we mocapped it once and we weren't happy and we had to redo it with someone else, so that might have also contributed to all that. So this one was not by any means my favorite.
But at least we had the good visuals in the background, right?
Yeah, that's totally true. Thank you.
with our small birds that are
I saved the day. Is that what you're saying? No. But the room itself is visually speaking is definitely, again, I guess it goes with the whole Darrow thing that we've been talking about. The room itself is really not one of the best visuals of the game. But in the background, the matte painting that we have of Panchaea and that big gaping hole that goes into the ocean is
impressive.
Is quite impressive. Is I think pretty much movie quality. It's Jim Murray who did it, one of our concept artists, and turned out very well. So.
And I can't remember if in this shot we can see.
So I actually had an awful lot of fun writing the Hyron project emails that you find in here, because the concept that we had was, of course, that any kind of email that's been generated about a security code, we should have it be generated by this Hyron computer that's in the basement of this facility, in the very, very depths of the facility. And so the whole concept that this computer was actually part human, and these poor women who had been attached to this against their will. And so it was actually fun every time I would do that to write emails that kind of sound very computer-esque, and yet at the very end have this eerie human statement about remember me, or life is sad, or all this stuff. And it added, for me, I had a lot of fun doing it. It added a lot, and all of the codes for all of the that the computer had to generate were often, the codes were the names of the women who had been kidnapped, and the their dying statement as the password. So that was sad. Kind of wild as you sit there and look through all those computers.
Access granted. Access granted.
One of the other things that we wanted to do with the endings, as JF mentions in another one of our discussions here, is that by not going to see Seraph or not seeing Taggart, you wouldn't actually get their end choices. But we also intended that the endings would play out a lot differently. We didn't want it to be that you just go to the room and they give you a dialogue and then you get the ending. We actually wanted them at one point to give you actions you had to do. The end, they're asking you to change the message, and we had all these ideas, if I can remember it correctly. We had ideas that in order to actually change the message, you had to compile evidence and that you could actually insert into it. And so we were going to send you all over the place, and I remember Taggart, the only thing I vaguely remember with Taggart is that he wanted you to go get his briefcase somewhere because there would be some tapes and evidence in there that you could do. Yeah. So it was supposed to be a lot more involved than just getting to talk to them and then getting to push a button at the end. But
the schedule was tight when we were at that point where we could figure this out, and we had to take some shortcuts and get to the essential.
Yes.
It will be. Just remember. All.
So here we are with some of the final dialogues in the game, and I think I mentioned earlier that when we first started the project, the approach that we were coming from was to make the story mostly told through cutscenes and through these dialogues that reacted and didn't give you much opportunity to actually interact with them. And we had made the decision much later into production that, oh my goodness, we're missing an opportunity. So I really, really wanted to make these conversations with Seraph and with Taggart more interactive and give the player more choices. But we unfortunately just ran out of time as we're rewriting the whole script. And so at the end here, I did what I could to kind of
at least we
make
had to add the philosophy in place, but it was not as involving the player as much.
Yeah. So that was kind of one of my disappointments.
And also another thing that with the Seraph room, and as we'll talk about the Taggart's room too, if you don't visit them, they don't appear in the final choices. And we debated it for a while within the team, whether if we should go in that direction or not, if it was too punitive or not. And me, I was really going for the fact that, no, you need to go talk to them. And if you don't, then those opportunities are just not there. And
you mean at the end of the game when you have to make your choices?
When you have to make your choice at the end. So instead of having 4 options available, you would end up having just 2 with the player choice and the Daro's choice. So, but yeah, we had a lot of long discussions about that.
Adam!
You've got...
Access granted.
Here's what we call the Star Wars bridge, because it's kind of like reminiscing of these huge environments that you see in Star Wars, especially in the
Death Star.
In the early ones, the Death Star, and probably also the Cloud City and stuff like that. There's huge cylinders with like a little bridge and stuff like that. The idea here, I think, could have been implemented a bit better, but the idea is that we're actually between like the walls of Panchea, the actual rim of the cylinders. We are inside this rim. It's almost as if the early parts of the level were on the exterior part of the walls, and then we need to take a bridge that crosses that wall that brings us into the hollow part of the cylinder to take the big elevator that's going to bring us down. So the idea was to understand that every like gigantic engineering feat, like such as Panchea, or like a big dam or something like that, you can actually go inside the structure. Like literally, it's hollow inside. It's not just pure concrete. And there's major installations, bridges, stairs, pipes, like for maintenance, and that's kind of where you're at in that section. So it's pretty cool. If you look left, if you look right, you see that it just keeps on going really far, and it starts curving because it follows obviously the curve of the circle. So it's a pretty neat place.
And that bridge also, a lot of players went into like, oh, I cannot continue to play stealth, but actually you can continue to play stealth. Like even though there's a throng of crazies, sorry Mary, that are out there, if you're really patient and you really think it through and use all the tools you have, you can really go past them without being noticed.
You can go under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go down and there's like on the side or something like that. Yeah.
So that's the big elevator scene where we actually go technically at the bottom of the ocean, and
that was something quite important to us.
And what we wanted to do at first, it was to put the flags of the countries today fighting for the Arctic Pole and everything.
Oh, at the bottom.
At the bottom, which we didn't do.
Because that's the idea, that the cylinder literally goes to the bottom of the Arctic Ocean, and there is a real thing where Canada and Russia are actually in the real world fighting to know that place belongs to who, and actually put their flags there.
And we wanted to put them there.
To be like, that's exactly where the thing is where the flags are at.
But if we come back to the elevator itself, like what we wanted to do is, it was this massive thing where you just absorb this whole infrastructure as you go down. It was tough to
Yeah, we had some trouble with this elevator. In fact, because we have to be sure the timing during the descent is not too long, and during this descent, the visibility of the round itself,
the structure.
The structure must be artistically. Correct. In fact. And finally, we did more. We did some tests for this. We had very quickly a solution for the rendering part, but we encountered some trouble with the physics system itself, because when we found the speed of the elevator, we have trouble, for example, with the jump. When you jump during the descent of the elevator, when you touch down after that, the elevator itself, you were killed. So
because it had to move quite fast, actually.
It was going down so fast that basically, if you jumped, it ended up like being a huge drop back to the thing. Yeah.
So it was after that a discussion with game director, etc., to be sure. Can we just lock the character during the descent? The answer was yes. So
we can move around.
We move around.
We can move.
We killed the jump feature for that
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember one of our big challenge was making sure that it feels big, that it goes down for quite a long time, but at the same time not too long, you know.
Yeah.
But because if it went down too fast, it would feel like the tube was really short. And
the second issue with that, finally, it was the bonding areas. Because the elevator was
opened, yeah.
So if you jump, you can jump over the well. So you can be killed again.
Yeah.
So, and because there's no gameplay really in this, it's just a big showcase.
It's a big feeling.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just to absorb something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this was a good decision for this. So we can focus only on the art part finally.
Yeah, and I remember we wanted to have a lot more like things exploding and like because you know of all the stuff that happened in Pencha and smoke. Yeah. There was a bit, you know, but I remember we had things we wanted to have those big pipes.
Yeah,
falling
exactly.
And like
and finally all the stuff was at the original scale. For this part was the original scale. It's not really
we had
really
few compromises to do, but we managed to pull off for the feeling we wanted for that scene. Yeah.
Some part was matte painting directly on the structure to manage correctly the feeling of the structure, and sometimes some closer part were directly classic model and texture.
Modeled and stuff. Well, if you remember, the comment I had with the hacker scene where I was telling the cinematic director that he couldn't use guns, actually this is the only cutscene in the game where he managed to convince me to make Jensen use a gun, because he was able to justify it with the dead people. It was taken on the ground and he throws it away before the end of the cutscene. So
we actually had to write it into the cutscene for it that he would find the dead body and find the gun.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what I remember about this particular room is the concept for the High Ground project was originally much bigger. It was supposed to be men and women who were being kind of attached to this computer, and that this entire room would be something reminiscent for me of the Matrix with all the pods and all that. But in the end, I think for production reasons, it ended up getting cut down to just being, the three women at the base. And I'm sure there are other High Ground projects within the confines of the station as well, but here's the center core.
And from the audio side, this was probably the most challenging map that we had to work with. Numerous reasons. There's a lot of things I love about it. I remember giving the guys the request saying for the drones, I really wanted what I called the poltergeist effect. If you go back to the movie Poltergeist, where she's trapped in the TV, and it's almost, they call it a reverse delay, where you hear this voice coming in and then the real voice comes in. I knew right away I wanted that type of effect for the drones. And managing one of the guys on my team, Yoann Boudreau, I think he lost a year of sleep just trying to get this scene to work, because there was so many technical problems with the way it had been constructed. It was constructed so it would work, but without audio in mind, and then he had to find about 100 different workarounds. And there's so many sounds going on. Zhao, talking, the turrets going around, pretty much just so much sound to manage, and he had a really hard time, and I got to give him a lot of credit. Like, getting this map to kind of work and not sound like just a huge mess was amazing.
And the other interesting audio trick we did was the women's voices. We actually had 2 different women doing the Chiron voices, one of whom does all the computers in the game, and the other one actually plays Megan Reed. So with this cutscene, we spent a lot of time because we really wanted to make sure that in the explosion, Jensen gets hurt. Because we had a different idea for the ending. We wanted to actually have it be more playable with the player feeling Jensen being hurt and struggling and affecting the emotion, and not just pressing buttons. So we really had to make him get hurt in this cutscene, but all for naught, because ultimately we ended up kind of cutting that ending plan.
Exactly.
Didn't we? Oh well.
Hello, Adam. Welcome to the Edge.
So this is the very final room of the game. So it was very important for us to have a memorable room, something that you would that would kind of like, you know, stay in your mind after you're done playing the game. So we kind of wanted to bring back a lot of the visual themes of the game, the black and gold, the weird, like the weirdness of some of the architecture and the art installation and all that. And it started as a as a very, might I say, kind of basic kind of control room at the beginning. You know, it was like this kind of technical, kind of grayish computer room, and then we just said, you know, that's going to be just way too ordinary, and we transformed it into this crazy Tetris-like thing that I think worked out pretty well.
It works really well, and like we alluded in our last comment, like our goal has never been to just simply be pushing buttons here. Like it was all about working when Sarif was asking something, when Taggart was asking for something else, and doing those things would open and trigger kind of those endings. But like we said earlier, we had to cut and make things simpler. So we knew that by pushing the buttons, it would be kind of feel cheap and some players would be disappointed. But it was that or not having endings at all. So we had to make those kind of, like I would say, necessary decisions that were not the creative ideas behind
our original intention.
Exactly. And also with and as you go into the final cutscenes, you might like them, you might not like them, but actually for us it was more to give the endings in the players' hands, in the sense that what do you really think is going to happen with your decision? Like how do you believe that humankind is going to be able to pull that off and everything? And the cutscenes themselves are there to illustrate the pattern of human beings, like what they did in the past, what they're doing today, and where do you think they're going, and if it fits with what you envision for.
And it's kind of there to show you that, you know, science fiction is always commenting on reality in a safe place.
Exactly.
But it's actually reflecting reality, and we wanted at this point with these ending cutscenes to say, hey, all this time you've been playing a game, but the issues are very real, and look, it's in our own history.
And that's exactly why we chose to go with live footage, because it's almost as if you can see a bit the game as almost as a dream, like in the sense that it's a stylized version of reality, yet dealing with very real themes, like you're saying, Mary. But then at the end, we thought about it. Do we go with CGI? Do we, you know? And then we said, hey, how about we go with real live footage? Because now we're showing you the results of what you experience in the game, but what it does in real life. So let's go with live footage. And I know some people weren't too keen on that once the game came out, but this is something that I'm adamant about, that I really think was the right choice.
Exactly.
I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, because to me too, it was like those endings are going to be, you love them or you hate them.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that.
But they won't leave you indifferent.
Yeah.
And that was our goal. So those endings are very polarizing, and I think in the end it achieved what we wanted. But I want to add one more thing, like as you'll watch them probably in a couple of seconds, the original footage, we had more shocking imagery that was included, and for some reasons, editorial reasons, we had to rearrange them to make them, I would say, more politically correct. And I'm happy. Like, I wasn't happy when I had to do that, but I was happy how we managed to maintain
the heart of the essence of the message. We didn't compromise on that. So, hope you enjoyed this commentary. It's probably the last comment you will hear, or like. Not because if you go in the room on the other side, there's another comment. So
that's true.
Regardless, hope you enjoyed it and you had fun to learn about a little bit more about the SX Human Revolution. So,
peace.
See you. Here on this corridor, this is where you can go for the player choice, where you just try to sync the Panchea facility. Like we said in an earlier comment, like in the outro of the Iron Project cutscenes, where you see Jensen being thrown to the wall, it was our way to make sure that Jensen would be injured and like still alive, but really struggling, because our original intention was to have the player play Jensen like crawling on wounded and on the floor and getting to there, and as he would go to there, if the other characters like Sarif, Taggart and Darrow would be alive, they would go in the info link and go like, Jensen, what are you doing? Like, no, don't do this. And also Eliza as an hologram was supposed to walk with you and accompany you through that choice, and the goal was to make it so that deciding to put an end to all of this and maybe alluding to will Jensen survive this as well or not was something that was super important. It's a big decision, and we wanted to make it last and have this feeling at the other people trying to pull you in the other direction to make that choice even more weighty, more substantial, etc. But in the end,
all good intentions.
Yeah, and it would have been amazing to see Jensen, to see the camera struggling so much, like feeling that he struggles, and seeing Eliza like all kind of calm walking. It would have been a really nice contrast.
Yeah. But,
maybe they'll get it right in the movie.
Yeah, so again, like if that is the last comment you listen to, hope you enjoyed this commentary.
Thank you for listening to us chat.
See you soon.
And I'll go watch the movie.
If you do this, the world will be left with questions and may never reach a consensus. Are you sure this is your choice? We have little time left, Adam. And might I say, it has been a pleasure.
Do I trust mankind to save itself? That's what Eliza was asking. The truth is, I don't know. After everything I've seen, all the fighting and chaos around me, all I really know is this. Human beings are survivors. These past few months, I've faced many life-threatening situations. I could have given up many times, but my need to know the truth, to uncover the secrets that others were hiding, and to survive forced me to keep on going. Most of the time, I dealt with obstacles ruthlessly, abusing resources and inflicting suffering before others could do it to me. Detached from my humanity, I may not have done the best thing, but I always got the job done. Thank goodness I'm not the only one out there. Because the truth is, deciding the future for all mankind shouldn't be left up to one man. Ordinary men and women will have to decide together what course mankind should take. The kind of people who time and time again have picked and chosen the future in highly practical ways. Slowing change when it's negative, speeding it up when it's good. Can they do it again? I don't know. But I do know I'm not about to let anyone in this station, myself included, stand in their way.